What's going on, y'all? It's FJT, another episode of His Side of the Story. So today I'm gonna talk about this guy I grew up with, and this guy I've known him since freshman year of high school, and ever since I've known him, he had an on and off girlfriend that lived across the street from him. So after we graduated, we continued to stay in touch for many years. Then he eventually had a child with that same on and off girlfriend. And when they had a child together, they weren't in the best financial position to do so. And before they had the child, he told me that they were both in debt and didn't have much money. And after having a child, it pushed them deeper into debt. So in his mind, he figures since he had a child with her, it's his duty to marry her. So he eventually proposed and she said yes. And some years later, after living together and raising a child, him and his fiance started getting into those crazy arguments and drama like most couples do. Then I remember one random day he texted me ranting and raving about his fiance. He was so pissed off that he couldn't even spell or form sentences correctly, so I couldn't understand what he was saying. I had to ask him several times what he's talking about, and he explained to me that he caught his fiance talking with another man. I think he said that her phone was on a counter or sitting somewhere, and the phone lit up, and he was walking by, and he took a quick glance and he saw a Facebook message pop up from some guy flirting with her. He said he never ever went into her phone because he always trusted her, but he had to investigate the situation. That's when he checked her phone, and that's when he seen that her and this guy have been talking for a long time, and she was also seeing this guy behind my buddy's back. So my buddy, he went crazy and they got into a screaming argument in their apartment. So my buddy said that the marriage is over with since she wants to cheat. But as time went on, he forgave her and they continued their relationship because in his mind, he figured it's cheaper to keep her and he wants to do what's best for his daughter. And you know what? It's funny because months after that situation, his mom reached out to me and invited me to a surprise birthday party that they were throwing for him, right? And at that party, I sat between him and his fiance, and I asked his fiance when the wedding date is, and she was like, "Oh, the wedding has been postponed." And I asked why. She's like, "Oh, you didn't know? It's postponed because we had a blowout." So I just played stupid and I pretended like I didn't know about it. I'm like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "For real?" And she's like, "Yeah, we had a blowout because he was upset that some guy liked me." And I just kind of chuckled to myself because she's trying to make it seem like the guy was only texting her and she didn't even like the guy. But of course, she didn't tell me the part when she was texting the guy and secretly seeing the guy. But a long while after that, my buddy told me that his fiance has the baby, rabies, and she wants another child. He told her not now because he wants to save her for a house and also pay off all the debt that they owe from years ago. Then once that's completed, then they can have another child. Not too long after that, I remember one day I was sitting at home when he called me. So I answered like, "What's up, bro?" He's like, "Yeah, I just wanted to call you to let you know that my fiance's pregnant." I was like, "Oh, congratulations." And he's like, "Yeah, thanks, bro." I said, "I thought your fiance was on birth control." He's like, "Yeah, I thought so too." He said, when she broke the news, he said to her, like, "What happened? I thought you were on birth control." She told him that she accidentally forgot to take a couple of pills some days. So they eventually had another child and accumulated much more debt on top of the debt they already had. And last I heard, they now have 3 kids together, and they never had a wedding because she has to have a big wedding reception and honeymoon in another country, but they can't afford it. He suggested that they do the marriage and wedding ceremony without the expensive stuff, but that's not good enough for her. But I don't talk with him anymore, but if I ever somehow run into him in the street, maybe I'll give you guys an update if he tells me something crazy. And I personally don't recommend men to get married, but to each his own. And hopefully someone can take this story as a learning lesson. Because yeah, it feels good without protection, but understand the risk you take, even if she says she's on birth control or told you that her doctor said she can never get pregnant, or she tells you that she'll get an abortion if she ever gets pregnant. Always remember, it takes one mistake and a few seconds of pleasure to change your life. So be smart, fellas.